a study was recently done, and this was put up in the Boston Globe, where actually 50 studies were compiled together into one paper, and they looked at the impact of calcium and vitamin D supplements and how they actually protect us from bone fractures. And what they found was that between testing a group of individuals with calcium and vitamin D and another group of individuals with just a placebo, which is typically like a sugar pill, they found there was no difference between the two. There were the same amount of fractures, the same amount of typical bone health or average bone health. And their conclusion was that it's not just about the supplement that you take. They say that many people seem to have this kind of over compensation on supplements, thinking that that will make up for lack of exercise or lack of healthy eating. But what these researchers have found was that over these randomized clinical trials, which involved over 50,000 adults over the age of 50, that you just need a healthy lifestyle on top of the supplements. That supplements are only meant to do just that, which is supplement the things you're just not able to get in, but it can't fix everything. It's not a cure-all. It's not a Band-Aid that will heal everything. You really need consistency in everything that you do concerning your body. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you were in more so like the neurological sciences, but you understand a bit of how, again, health impacts us and our emotions and our mental state and everything like that. So what are your thoughts from hearing this?
Well, I always try to get vitamins in my system, and I forget after a bit. Like, I try it for a few days, and then I'm like, meh, I'll take it later. And it's interesting because, as you mentioned, I think that people nowadays, we rely so much on what essentially the overall pharmaceutical industry, right? Obviously, vitamin supplements aren't necessarily a man-made drug intended to cure something in a non-organic manner, in theory, right? I mean, you can get your vitamins and your supplements from herbs and, plants and some other places as well, vegetables, fruits. But this idea of essentially medicating what's wrong with you instead of, it's exactly, you're putting a Band-Aid over the wound and instead of treating the symptoms. Like, why do you have the wound in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it is important to be balanced in your life. We hear this, I think, from everywhere we go, right? I think that's the one thing that potentially all doctors and scientists and holistic people agree on is, well, yeah, this one thing can help treat this one thing. But for you to be healthy overall, you have to treat everything, right? You can't just depend on one vitamin or one supplement or one type of medication or, kind of have a panacea, a cure-all for everything. And I mean, this kind of ties in back to our society. We've exploded with all of the stuff that's available to us, but our bodies and our minds haven't quite caught up yet. And so I do think, it's important to have supplements, especially if, let's say your lifestyle right now is, or your dietary lifestyle or your own lifestyle is different than what's readily available out there. You do have to take that extra step to educate yourself and then, get the stuff that you need for yourself. For example, if you have a vegan dietary lifestyle or if a diet, I should say, our bodies evolved with the needs of certain things. Because we sit at a desk all day, maybe, and you are vegan, maybe you don't have the time to go pick your own, plants to eat or get those types of vitamins.
Or at least find
supplements.
a restaurant that's close enough that can fit to your dietary needs, as an example again.
Right. Or maybe you can't afford it. Whatever your situation may be, there might be, then you might have the need to go get those supplements or help enhance your particular situation with something that helps your body out. So I'm all for vitamins and supplements, but it cannot be the only thing.
Oh yeah. Well, and again, it's all based on mindset, as RX Mongo points out, that if you have the mindset of like, oh well, it's this or this, that's an issue. Where you say, well, I can either work out or I can just take a multivitamin and I'll be fine, or I can eat a bunch of crap, high processed, high fat foods or whatever, but I take a vitamin so that balances out. But it's if you really think about it, it's a silly kind of mindset to have. That's like saying, hey, I want a double cheeseburger with bacon on it, and you know what, put on an extra layer of lard because you can, but I'm gonna have a Diet Coke because it's a Diet Coke, and I want to make sure I don't take all those sugars in. It's like, you can't have one without the other. Like, you have to, if you're gonna be healthy, it's not just about the multivitamin, it's not just about the vitamin D supplement, which is actually a hormone, but it's also about what you eat, how you eat it, when you eat it. A lot of people forget about things like portion control, because in the US especially, what's that? So many of us look at food and go, oh, well, my plate isn't filled with food or overbrimming with food, so therefore it's not enough, I'm getting ripped off. But if you look at, for instance, trying to go out and understand the caloric intake and the amount of fats and the amount of certain vitamins and minerals and whatnot that article of food has, you'd go, oh, that's actually plenty. But our mindset is always more, and it's always, well, let me supplement before this, I can at least get away with this.
I don't know, man. I like to eat 4 scoops of ice cream, and I don't care what anybody says. That is my portion. But yeah, and not even, or in addition to food, it's also taking care of yourself, right? Take a break. Go and do something that makes you feel good. If you're stressed out from your job, if you're stressed out from your family, if you're stressed out from obligations, or kind of whatever it is that you are anxious about, finding ways to help your body along and help yourself out. Because you can be super skinny and super healthy and eat all the right foods, but maybe you're working 90 hours a week, and maybe you don't get enough sleep, and you're always getting sick, and you're like, why? I'm eating healthy, I'm doing all this other stuff, but it's also taking a look at other things that you might not be doing, which is taking a break.
Taking resting the mind, resting the body.
Exactly. Unplugging, maybe reevaluating what it is you do for a job. Maybe it isn't something that makes you happy. I know a lot of people tend to laugh at meditation, but there's different ways you can meditate. It's just being, again, mindful and in the present, and truly listening to what your body specifically needs, and not what you are told that we need, or what we read that we need, or
well, I think it's also
things.
What is your perception of healthy as well, and is there actually reality to that perception? Because it's very interesting, because many people look at someone, for instance, you mentioned like some being skinny, but they're also healthy, right? But there are also plenty of people too who, they look at someone, they go, oh, they're skinny, so it automatically makes them healthy, right? But that's just a perception. You could be incredibly skinny, but be eating, you could have a horrible diet, or what would be considered a horrible diet, and you could be basically, in a way, malnourished, but you could also be deficient in vitamins and potassium and in many other minerals and other things that you need for your body to function, for your cells to develop. And that can be a huge impact too. So you have to understand, in question, what is my perception of health? If I think it is someone who's super skinny, are they really healthy? Or can healthy have many forms? Which, as we've seen, they can, right? Because there's also different things such as body type. There's the mesomorph versus the, what was the other one? The mesomorph,
the ectomorph,
and endomorph. So there's 3 like core designated body shapes and I guess styles, if you will. Hate to say that because it sounds like a car or something, like I want the coupe or I want the pickup truck. but you're kind of
pickup truck, definitely.
you're born with what you got, right? And there are different types of body types, and those body types react differently to different diets, different types of exercise. So it's important to understand your perception, understand what you're working with as an individual, and then learn about what can impact you. And again, we are mentioning this because it's not about the fact of hating on supplements. We're absolutely not doing that, or on multivitamins or anything like that. You do need those, and they are to fill in for things that we either don't get because of certain restrictions, like economics, or just from a diet perspective. But there's also things like B12, for instance, which we're seeing less and less of, which actually cultures naturally in dirt, and then animals would eat things from the dirt or eat the dirt itself, and then they would take it in, absorb it. We would then consume the animal, and then from there we would take in our B12. Less animals are getting in that B12 because less B12 is being basically kind of cultured or created within the dirt for many reasons, including pesticides and whatnot. And so that ends up impacting our diet overall. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to take a supplement to balance out that B12. So there are certain situations too where you just can't help but take a supplement. There is no real cure for it. You just have to work with what you're given at that point. So supplements can be absolutely fantastic, but it's good to understand where your current body state is and how that impacts you, and what else can you be doing on top of said supplement. That's really the key of it, is to have balance, not put all of your money into one specific situation, one specific thing.
Exactly. And people, our chat is bringing up some good points too. Your DNA also your genetics sort of determine a lot of stuff, fortunately and unfortunately, I guess. For example, I know somebody who, if he's around secondhand smoke, he has problems breathing. He starts this terrible cough. And I know people who smoke a whole entire pack a day, and they're as healthy as a horse for right now. And I would say that the first person I know, he tries to eat healthy. He goes to the gym, does all this other stuff. Like, he's doing all of the things. He's checking off all these boxes, right? But this other person who smokes a lot doesn't do any of that. And again, for right now, they appear to be okay. They haven't had any health problems, and they've been smoking for a while. So exactly, you have to kind of also listen to your body, but you also have to again, just educate yourself, see what else is out there. I became a pescatarian several years back, and I didn't really know what that entailed in terms of what I was potentially lacking if I wasn't careful. And I remember talking with a nutritionist one time, and she said, well, you're probably eating a lot of pasta to make up for the fact that you don't have a lot more meat, even though you kind of still eat fish. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I do, and that's a lot of carbs. And so that was something that I just never thought of. I just thought, oh, well, as long as I'm getting food in, what does it matter? At the time, I didn't really understand what my decision meant for me, for my body, for my health. I was kind of doing it for some different kinds of reasons. But I never really realized how that affected me. And then, I educated myself, and like I said, I try to take vitamins and supplements and all that good stuff, but there's just times too where, you have to make the choice of what is your body telling you? Do you feel better when you do this, or is it maybe a placebo effect of that kind too? Just maybe you're, our minds are pretty powerful at the same time, right? And if you, I would even, kind of go on a limb and say that if you are the type of person who knows all about supplements and vitamins and other ways to infuse your body with good, as it were, you're probably a little bit more attentive to your lifestyle and what else you're doing with other things. You might maybe take more breaks from work. You might, be kinder to yourself, as it were. And so maybe it's the whole holistic effect of, well, it's not just that you're taking supplements that are helping you, but you're doing other things as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it's amazing even just changing one thing. For instance, so many people forget the impact of water. And, there are many people that are like, oh, I hate water. I hate the taste of it, which is like, it's not supposed to taste like anything. Unless you get it from like city tap water or somewhere, then yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that I'm happy with a filter. But, overall though, there's so many people like, oh, I don't get enough coffee, or, I drink a lot of other drinks, so that should balance it out though, right? And it's like, well, no, a lot of those actually dehydrate you further, such as caffeine will dehydrate you. So when you drink more coffee, you're actually dehydrating your body more, ironically, because there is water within that, right? And it's amazing how so many people will say, well, I feel super tired and I don't know, I keep taking energy drinks and coffee and I still just keep feeling worse and worse. And it's like, well, have you tried water? And I remember talking to a doctor about this, and they said, the more water that you take in, the more energy naturally your body's going to feel, because your body needs water to function as one of many things it needs to function. And so it really helps the process of getting even just your system going and revving up. And it's amazing how it can just change in a matter of moments. I mean, I drink a glass of water every morning. And for me, at least, and I'm not saying this works for everyone, but for me, I start to feel a little bit more energetic. Not the same as like a buzz from coffee or such as a jolt from like a Red Bull. That's not the type of buzz that we have come to expect nowadays, it seems like. I feel like so many of us are like druggies when it comes to caffeine.
I don't know what you're talking about as she drinks her espresso.
But it's like, that still gives me a better feeling overall. And it can really help wake you up. It can really help get you feeling a little bit more energized, because even when we sleep, we dehydrate a lot, because there's actually a lot of work going on for us to sleep. Ironically enough, we're trying to rest ourselves, but our body's still doing a lot of work just to sleep. And so therefore it needs to rehydrate. So the more water you can actually put into your system when needed, the better off. But again, people don't think about those things. So they try to rely on caffeine. They try to rely on other supplements without really looking at the whole picture. And again, supplements can be great, but just know what's really causing it. Because what you think might be causing some of the things you feel might not be a root cause, if that makes sense.
Right. And to your point of our bodies are working while we're sleeping, well, yeah, they got to fix all the shit we do to them during the day or whenever we're awake.
That's true. If you live in the city, you're dealing with pollution. Let's just be honest, pollution. If you smoke or you're around a lot of smokers, you're dealing with that as well. You're dealing with natural stressors every single day, even if it's being on the road driving, going, oh, this freaking asshole just cut me off, and oh, my day. And you're pulling out your hair because of all the stress. So there are a lot of different factors that we tend to forget about, or we assume is natural, right? Like, oh, well, this is supposed to happen. And like, well, yeah, stress does happen naturally, and anxiety and everything else. But, there's a certain point where you're going to hit a certain line and it's going to be too much. And you've got to understand, well, what's too far? And when is it actually more than just natural, but something is being a catalyst to make these situations or these feelings or what have you even worse.
Right. And Dynamite brings up a good point too, and it's something that I want to talk about as well is, again, you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your own body, and you have to take the time to sit with yourself and be like, all right, what is happening with me right now? And if I do this other thing, is it going to help or not? I started going to a personal trainer about 3 months ago. And I, went twice a week, did the cardio thing when I wasn't there, did all the little exercises he said. And I honestly was expecting that in 2 to 3 weeks, I would start like losing weight, feeling like really energetic, like, all of the stuff, all of the sparkles that you're promised, right? Not that he made those promises by any means, but he, you're thinking, hey, I'm doing something that I don't normally do every day. Usually I just sit on my butt all day. It'll be great, right? 3 months later, and he, we measured all the stuff,
the BMI,
pounds, the BMI, the this and that. He had like 15 different numbers that he was tracking. We had this little machine do this thing. It was amazing. And after the first month, he was like, "Oh, okay, well, you're the same." And I was like, "Okay, well, it takes the body a little bit to do stuff. Cool, no problem." And we were also we're also talking about how to change the diet that I had and stuff like that. So I was eating like healthier, and I was like paying attention to stuff, and I was like taking my vitamins and drinking my water and doing all this stuff. And second month comes around, and it's like, okay, well, you're kind of still consistent, and I don't feel different, right? And that's kind of my own thing, is I had these expectations, and I'm like, I don't feel different. I don't feel like I look different. I still am freaking tired as F all the time. But I feel like I've made these huge changes to my lifestyle, and I'm not seeing the results that I had in my brain. And you just have to, again, kind of listen to your body and be like, okay, well, like we were saying before, what are you healthy, right? Are you at a place where not that there wasn't anything quote wrong before, but it's like, are you at a place where is it actually more stressful to continue doing something that you think you should be doing versus maybe looking at an alternative of something else? Maybe hardcore exercise isn't my thing, and I keep trying it every now and again, but I do know that when I cut out juices from my diet, I lose 15 pounds in 2 weeks, just like that, but do I want to cut juices from my diet, right? And so I have all these like struggles that I have with myself, and like striking that balance again between being healthy, but like not, torturing yourself to be healthy is also unhealthy to some degree. And I think that's something that you just kind of have to also educate yourself on, right? Like figure out what else is out there. I do know that when I sleep for 8 or 9 hours a day, I wake up like I feel like so good. So to me, I just need to one of the things that I want to try to do more of is actually get more sleep, whether it's by napping. I love naps. Whether it's by trying to, structure my day and hopefully have the ability to do so where I'm actually sleeping more deeply. Because for me, that seems to work,
Oh, yeah. And, to kind of summarize altogether this concept of balance, Marion Nessel, who was one of the professors who involved herself in the research behind do these specific supplements of calcium and vitamin D really impact and protect us from bone fractures, said that, bone preservation throughout life requires eating healthfully, engaging in weight-bearing activity, which, again, if you're behind a desk all day, can be very difficult, and avoiding excessive alcohol and not smoking. So again, it's that balance in everything that you do and what you consider more of something to help kind of alleviate stress might be inducing something worse upon you, for example. And so but it's really important to note, though, that for this specific study, the study did not look at the benefits or risks of supplements on other conditions. So this one specifically from the Boston Globe, the articles from the Boston Globe, is specifically for vitamin D and calcium for bone strength and fractures. But it is noted, though, that vitamin D can lower risks for diabetes and certain cancers from other research. But again, they don't really go in depth in this specific research about those actual impacts. So again, the other thing is not only having balance, but knowing what really impacts the issue that you may be facing, right? And taking specifically what you need over what you think you might need, if that makes sense. And just looking at it too, Dynamite mentions too the fact of your DNA. Sometimes not everyone can cut carbs and exercise heavily to lose weight. And that's very true. I know you actually, came across an article not too long ago about like blood types, right? And about like if you're an A blood type or an O blood type or something like that, that is actually a good indicator of where your ancestry is from within the world, as well as some of the impacts of food too, right?
Yeah, like some diets, basically your body adapts to certain diets better and to others not so great. Whether it's, let's say, some people actually eating fish is more beneficial to their body because their body can actually absorb the nutrients and all the good stuff from them easier. But for others, it's actually other things. So it was fascinating, and I remember reading about it and looking at my blood type and saying, yep, check and check. So again, it's sort of kind of going back to that whole, you do have to educate yourself as to what works and what doesn't work. And Dynamite also brings up something like chiropractors, those guys working magic for your body and your bones. And I do know, I certainly know people who swear by it. I actually did try it. Again, another thing that I particularly specifically have tried as well. And again, that's went in, I think, with high expectations, came out with mediocre results. I'll still take a good massage over a chiropractor any day, in terms of how I feel it helps me both in the short term and the long term. But yes, it's I think, again, talking about how people want this cure-all, right? I mean, the pharmaceutical industry certainly banks on a lot of that, right? Just take this one pill, it will solve everything. But aren't there like 1,400 different medications for antidepressants? And I just feel like there's, even in the industry that says, oh yeah, this will fix it. It's like, well, this will fix it, but this will fix it this other way, and this will fix it this other way, and then this one will have these side effects, and this will have this side effects. And
and to be real here too, it's not really the job of the pharmaceutical industry to cure you. Think about that for a second, right? Because they are an industry.
My money back.
They are a business. So it really, in the end, it's not about curing you so much as keeping you as a long-term customer. So they want you alive, which is a nice thought. Hey, that's great. But they potentially don't always want to cure you. There have been several medications put out that actually help cure people of many different things. There's actually a pill that typically cures, I believe it's about 90% of those that take it from alcoholism. Will help them get off alcohol, because your body actually can become dependent on alcohol if you consume it enough. And there is actually a pill out there, but did you realize that? Have you seen it in the news? Is it being pushed out everywhere? No, because it doesn't make the pharmaceutical industry money.
Or the alcohol industry.
Or the alcohol industry. Well, I mean, if you could drink all you want without being an alcoholic, you know what I mean? Like,
but if you didn't feel the need to do it, or or have potentially, alcoholism too. The fact that it's a topic.
That's a whole other topic. But yeah, it's amazing to think that these things do exist, and yet they're not being pushed.
Right.
Because again, everything, at least within the U.S., is so much based on consumerism, is so much based on making money, and altruism kind of skirts the line at times.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone. Happy New Year. New everything, including a new you. But I think it's important to be honest, though, even if it does sound like a little depressing. It is important to bring up those points and to at least get new perspectives, which is the goal of this talk show, right? It's the goal to get people talking and people thinking. And we may not agree on everything, right? These are just perceptions based on education and research and just, personal feeling and thought. But, in the end, at least we can help build bridges of communication to help connect us all and help understand individuals, because it's not always as clear-cut as we assume. And I think this is one of those situations, too, where, you could say, well, some supplements just don't work, but that doesn't mean they don't work in all cases, for example. Or just because it didn't work for you and your body type doesn't mean it won't work for someone else and their body type.
And then, we're looking at brands, we're looking at what else is in that pill or that vitamin. We're looking at, to which chiropractor you go to versus another. I mean,